Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our brand new fireside chat. My name is Victoria, and I work for Factorial, which is an all in one HR software company offering digital solutions to HR professionals all around the world. Today, we are very excited to have with us Sophia Patel, who is an HR manager at XPAC, and our product manager, Anna May, who will be discussing the topic changing culture by putting people first. Hello, all, and welcome.
Hi Victoria, hi Anna.
Hello, hello, hello. How are we?
Hi. So first, I'll start with introducing Sophia to all of you. So Sophia Patel is an active member and associate at the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. She is currently working as HR manager for XPAC Preston Ltd and I Love Cosmetics under the GRI Group. Sophia has a combined experience of 13 years in people and public services, specializing in the FMCG manufacturing industry sector, and is dedicated to the design and delivery of people positive strategies to help drive an organization's development. Today, the main question for this session will be Is there a magic formula for great company culture? We believe that the key to having better corporate culture is by treating your employees as you would like to be treated yourself. So, during the next 30 minutes, we'll be discussing the following topics: talent management, putting people first, changing culture in the workplace, and managing remote teams. In the end, we'll also explain how having an HR software can resolve all of these issues with one single feature. But before we start, I'd like to invite you to tell us in the chat where you are tuning in from, and also feel free to ask your questions throughout the event. I will write them down, and in the end, our speakers will answer them in the Q&A sections of this event. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can follow all of our future live events, such as this one. So, hello, Sophia and Aname, once again. Welcome. We are very happy to have you with us today. And Sophia, you can take over from here and start explaining more about performance management and these five aspects.
Hi Victoria, thank you so much for the warm welcome and the introduction. And hello, and thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in today. So talent management, I think talent management is kind of the end-to-end journey of an employee's life cycle within any organization. This encompasses right from where you would begin to strategize resource planning and the initiatives to attract talent, all the way to the end of that journey through to departure and including succession planning. I think it's important to note here that when we refer to talent, that we include each and every individual within the organization, as opposed to just those that you consider to carry more impactful roles. An organization would not hire anybody or any individual unless they were unless they weren't unless they were talented, sorry, however great or small it may be. If we ask what is involved in talent management, then I would say to attract, to develop, to manage, to retain, and to encourage that talent, and just to support it. These would be your core areas to create a framework. But what and how much fills that framework is really up to that organization, and obviously the HR professionals like myself to kind of put that in. Factorial, a platform like Factorial, is really, really good. It's been well designed to enable HR professionals like myself to be as simplistic or as creative as they want in creating these processes and these strategies. So that's my take on talent management.
Thank you. So nice to hear that. So, Aname, do you have anything to say about also this topic?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, hello everyone as well. Thanks for having me here, Anime. Nice to see you all here tuning in from all over the world. That's lovely. Around talent management, you touched on a really interesting point there, that for you, the core or the base of it is to attract, to maintain, develop, and manage. I know obviously there's no one size fits all. Every company is different. Every industry is different. Obviously, you as a professional, 13 years background in this industry, would you have any tips and tricks or any strategies that you absolutely say are necessary, that need to be implemented regardless of the company, or that just work for yourself? Any tips and tricks for our listeners today on what you would
On
recommend?
talent management, yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously each individual is different. And I think what's important in order to be successful in your approach to any sort of talent management strategies is that you have to allow flexibility, you have to allow adaptability. Like you said, not one size fits all, and I think that is really, really important, that you don't get bogged down in terms of like the processes and the policies that you've created, and try to or implement and attempt to kind of apply those to every situation or scenario, or every individual within the organization. But having kind of whilst those are there for guidelines, you just got to be mindful that we are dealing with human beings. At the end of the day, they are people with feelings and people with emotions, and everybody brings something different to the table when they do join your company. So having that adaptability is really, really important. Catering and finding solutions to be adaptable and flexible with those people and with the individuals that you're dealing with is also very important. And that's where the research part comes in. And I think more so for you as an HR professional to have not just one option but many different options to apply in any given scenario or situation. So that would be my approach.
Makes sense, definitely. And do you think, just out of curiosity, do you think, obviously I've worked with loads of different companies, different sizes, international, national, just local. Do you think it's almost better or worse to have a global international headcount, or is that just dependent on the business really?
No, there's nothing. It's nothing to do with better or worse. I think it's just that depending on. I mean, HR, I would hope that is delivered just the same, regardless of the scale. How you treat people, how you manage people always has to be the same, regardless of how many people you're dealing with, and how less people you're dealing with. Ultimately it all comes down to the size of the teams. If you are on managing people on a global scale, then I would hope that you would have a support system, you would have a team around you, and it's not just yourself that's as an individual, as one person doing it single-handedly, but you've got a collective team and support there to drive
behind you,
and as much as I say team, I think something like Factorial is also part of that team, because yes, it's not a person, a live person, a human being, but the way you set it up, the way you create it, it is there and designed and developed to be a support system for HR professionals. And that's so that would really help. And I think that the platform itself is so flexible, and it allows HR professionals to design it and develop it in a way that it could be the global, or a simple a small company in the heart of basically Lancashire, where I think size is really kind of not something that you need to be too concerned about. It's just
no, I think it's like you said, it's irrelevant almost. It depends on the HR professional themselves. And like you said, if you have a system in place, i.e. a team or an actual software system, I think like you said, that makes a difference, because that is your support. That takes a bit of work off you, because you can then obviously set the tasks on the software with yourself, with the managers, with the people that you need, that you work with. At the end of the day, you hit a very good point as well. And I totally agree. We're all people. Everyone is just a person. We all come to work. We all do our job, kind of thing. So I think I think that often gets lost sometimes, of like obviously the focus on process and managing, attracting, retaining this talent. At the end of the day, we're all just people. Like I think
absolutely,
you hit that nail on the head there. I think sometimes that gets a bit lost in the message of, oh god, like the retention, this, that, and it's understandable, but I think it's good to almost bring it down back to basics again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like you said, like we're all people. That's why this webinar is here for us today, because we want to put people first. So now let's move on to the second topic, putting people first.
So this is something is really, really important, and certainly something I'm very passionate about, and the whole reason why I'm in HR, because I've always been a people-focused person, and my whole intention of being in HR in the first place is because I want to make some sort of kind of a positive change to people's lives within a working environment. And I always say that people make a business. And so if we didn't have people, there would be no business. So my ethos in this is, really a happy workforce makes a better workforce. And that's what I think about every single day. Therefore, it's quite necessary that we adopt a people-focused approach to all aspects of our day-to-day decisions. Here at XPAC, we have been able to connect with our staff to understand their needs and wants and give them a voice, and really just having a presence amongst them, as HR. And I think that that's really important, because sometimes, HR is perceived as, being in that corner office and, only kind of being perceived as only go to HR when you have a problem. Are we just the hire and fire people? No, we're absolutely not. We're there to support people. We're there to drive positivity and, really just be there to support, regardless of whether you're a person, doing a basic job or somebody in a senior leadership team. You're all the same and you all get treated the same. So, HR's there for that reason. And often, it's expected that it is solely the line manager's responsibility to take care of the employees, but actually, it's not true. The responsibility lies with everybody collectively, from a senior leadership perspective as well. So all the way up to the directors or the chief operating officers or whoever it is that's responsible. Collectively, as a team, we're all responsible for looking after each other, including HR, by the way. And so in that respect, I think that communication forms a big part of this process to make sure that this becomes a success. Our objectives should be to create those clear lines of communication, to having the communication, but doing it in a way that's constructive and meaningful, that drives those results that you need through that communication. HR play a vital role in acting as a pillar and a grip of holding things together. HR can drive and influence the management and leadership teams in putting people first. We are the people of people, so that the responsibility does lie with us to kind of advocate that. And designing processes and initiatives around this focus, leaving little room for deviation. Often it is a misconception that a company is recognised and better represented by the leadership team, but in actual fact, a company's employer brand is established by the people within and better promoted by those greatly impacted by internal policies and strategies. So that is where people first comes in.
Exactly. And I totally agree with you on this topic. I think that the people are most important part of every company. And we got like a comment as well. I will show it with you here for everyone. It says that somewhere along the way, we seem to have forgotten what the H in HR stands for, hence why employees have a warped perception of the department is about. So I think that we all agree with this. So we need to focus more on the human part of human resources, not only just have it seen like an HR department and that's all.
Yeah.
Anime, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I was just actually, no, I'm glad you put that comment up actually, because I was going to say, when I first heard the word like human resource, like to me, it almost sounds incorrect. Like I don't, like you just hit yourself on the nail there with as well with what you said there, Sophia. We all think like the people in the office in the corner, you hire, you fire. If we have a complaint, you want a pay rise or whatever, you go to HR, everything goes to HR. No, like it's like you said, like people are the business. Without like people work, who do you look after? And you hit a good point as well, where everyone just thinks it's either it's HR's fault or it's the line manager's fault. But that we seem to have lost this culture of no, it's the whole organization. Everyone could do with pulling together as well. I think that's it seems to be like trending at the moment as well. Like the whole HR, it's a department where it should be, like you said, it's the pillar of a company in essence.
Yeah.
You're in with it, like whether you see it as or not, you're almost an integrated part of every team.
Yeah.
Like on the sidelines doing all the background work that no one's actually
doing. And I think that's really important in terms of like, the other side of this topic is about the change management, side. And that's where the pillar really comes in with HR, because, I know that, you know, there's periods of change within organizations, but I think periods of change are always there, regardless. It
Of
could be a
course
small
they will
change.
be. Businesses grow,
Yeah, it could be a
businesses
small
move.
change or a big change, you know, but change is always happening within a business, especially if you're growing as well. And for that reason, you know, it's so important that that change gets, you know, managed in the right way. And again, you know, what I've been able to do with here at XPAC is just channel and communicate and just kind of maintain positivity around that change, and you know, just keeping everybody on board and kind of having that understanding, that collective understanding of why something is happening, what is the outcome of what the change is, and how it's going to impact them. And as long as people are kept on board, people are kept informed, you know, there's no apprehension. And that is really my approach, and that's where the employee engagement side really kind of helps. And you know, and I know the Factorial definitely has really good solutions on the platform where that engagement side can be brought in, and how you interact with, you know, your staff. And you know, especially if it's as challenging for me within being in a standalone role, you know, you can't always be in front of everybody all the time, and you know, be here, there, and everywhere, and attend to every single person. But having, you know, solutions within the software whereby you could do like pulse checks or something, you know, like people are there to, people know that somebody's still looking after them, and people still care about what they think, and collecting those thoughts on a day in day out basis, you know, kind of really helps keep everything together and keep that confidence going.
No, I think that's definitely worthwhile. I think that what you mentioned there, you mentioned 2 points I think that's worth the obviously I'm putting people first. It's like that, the communication, the open lines. I think when you said that, when you're the HR being the pillar, that's kind of like where you guys sit in terms of the whole work. You know, what does HR actually do? You do a bit of everything realistically. You're not just people that hire or fire or just look after the human side of the business. You in essence fold into every aspect of it, I think. So yeah, no, totally agree, really. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And while we're talking about putting people first, I think that we need to go to changing culture in the workplace. You know, this is our main topic for today. So we will be discussing here like the vision, the values, and the principles, as well as coaching and mentoring, and real time feedback and active response. So, Sophia, I think that you have plenty to tell us about this.
Yes. I mean, in terms of like the vision, values, and principles, I think these are just the basics, aren't they? You can't, you can't really keep a workforce together. You can't all be on the same page if you didn't have these as guidelines. You know, it's really difficult, and it's what really binds the team together and ensures everyone is on the same page. Like I said, it's what connects the team to the overall mission and the driving factor of defining the purpose of the business. You know, what are we all here to do? Why are we here, and what are we trying to achieve? You know, and that is really important. You know, you need to have a sense of purpose, and it doesn't matter whether you're the MD of a business or you're, you know, kind of somebody working on the line. If it's manufacturing, you know, everybody needs to know why, how, what they do impacts the overall objective of that business. That's really important. And the approach, once again, is more around employee engagement and having interactions with the teams as regularly and constructively as possible to create transparency and alignment, breaking the us and them culture. That's really important. You know, what I found, obviously being in XPAC, is that, you know, collectively as a team, we've all been kind of had the understanding of, you know, the business is growing, you know, who's responsible for what, you know, how what they're doing is going to impact the growth, but in a positive way. And if, you know, there seems to be some sort of apprehension in the sense that actually I don't know what I'm doing, that's fine. You know, that mentoring and coaching can still be offered and be there, because people don't like change and people are afraid of change. And especially when you're going through that change process, and you know, you're almost taking somebody out of their comfort zone if they've been, you know, doing something in a certain way for a very long time, and that can be quite daunting. It can be quite a daunting experience. So, you know, rather than kind of just saying and delivering the decision on, this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow, or this is what we're going to be doing, and this is how the new way of working, it's always really, really important to allow the person that's going to be impacted the most from that change involved in that process of kind of making the decision and understanding what that change is going to be. Because what I found is that the best person to give you the solution is the person who's actually doing the job, and
100%.
to listen to them and to get the feedback of them. It would really, really kind of encourage that innovative thinking within the business, and that could only lead to positive results for that business.
No, definitely. It's like you said as well, if the person's involved, like you said, the person that will be impacted the most is the person doing the job. So if they're involved in the process, even in a small way, like you said, it's going to give you only positive results.
Yeah.
And do you think it's necessary to have, obviously, if we're scaling on massive sizes at Expac, maybe not that big of a scale or big of a change, but it's true, humans, we are naturally afraid of change. People don't like being thrown in the deep end sometimes. Very few people do. Do you think it's good to have almost like a process or some kind of like, I guess, process that I'm looking for, process in place to kind of help employees understand where change is coming from and how it's going to impact them and give them that choice? Do you think it's always
I think that as much transparency as possible is can only be positive and help the person, because even if it's on a global scale and they might not feel the burn of the change as much as because obviously it gets narrowed down, it kind of gets diluted through the chain. Ultimately it is still a change, and it could be as significant or as little as possible. However, it's a change. So, how do we communicate that? How do we streamline that? How do we simplify it and make it as less impactful on that individual as possible? And that's the responsibility of the line managers, to do that. I think if everybody kind of, once again, like I said, had that people-focused approach to enabling that change, what is the impact on this person as a result of this change? How can we support them? How can we make it so that they're not at a disadvantage as a result of that change? And even if they are at a disadvantage, how can we make it and communicate it in a way that they don't feel as though that we've not thought about them within that process? And as humans, all we want is somebody to tell us that, or show us or demonstrate that they care about us. I think that's really important. And and not every, I know that the bigger the organization, the more corporate you are, that becomes difficult. But I think through training, adequate training and effective training for your line managers or your management teams, that can still be delivered, because it's all down to communication. It's all down to how much interaction you have with your teams, and it is still manageable. And I think that when companies make excuses around, oh well, we're too big for that, or we can't possibly reach out to our staff as much as we want to, or I think it's still doable. It must be challenging. However, there are always ways and solutions to do that, whether that be through face-to-face interactions or through software. There's always options, and we're living in the day and age of technology, and I don't think that that's much of a challenge anymore. So yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, so maybe we can move on to the next topic, which is managing remote teams. Just like you said, when we are dealing with the face-to-face interaction, we are also dealing with people who are working remotely, and we have to use, the platforms for that. So maybe we can discuss here how to better manage a remote team, and maybe document management, how it helps you.
Yeah, so I know this is a trending topic at the moment, and although businesses actually are now drifting back to bringing staff back in the office, I think we're kind of coming out of that phase now where it's all just remote working, and because of that, you may still have members of staff who are remote working. My understanding is that a difference in working arrangement shouldn't really deprive any employees of being treated or managed in the same way they would be if they were to be in the office. There are multiple options and solutions on how you can still make it work and make them feel as though they are just as, you're just as attentive to them as you would be if they were to be right in front of you in an office environment. I think for managers, it's all about flexibility and adaptability once again, and finding solutions to continue to offer those means of support. And it really depends on understanding each member individually, because everybody's different. People do remote working for different reasons. People do remote working probably because they want to be left alone. They have the nature of their role means that they can just get on with it. Whereas there are other individuals who might need a bit more support. And unfortunately, it's a situation where the business can't offer them an opportunity to come and work in the office. Because they've changed the way that they deliver their services. But again, like I said, it all comes down to you focusing on the person and the individual and what is best for them, what works for them. As a business, yes, that's a requirement from our side that you have to work remotely even though you don't want to do it, but then it's our responsibility to make it so that you don't feel at a disadvantage as a result of that business decision. And that's really, really important. And different, I suppose the expectations are different as well. How much communication somebody wants from their line manager as opposed to somebody else who might not want as much communication. And really kind of understanding those expectations and compiling or coming up with a plan whereby it works for both sides. And I'm not saying that have a people focused approach to the point where you're only focusing on the person and you're not really focusing on achieving the overall objective or what you need to get out of that person for the business. But it's kind of like meeting halfway. And I think through any sort of communication or interaction, and being adaptable and flexible. And because it's not just about adaptability and flexibility on you as a line manager, it's also a responsibility for the employee to be a bit more adaptable and flexible as well. The expectation is both sides. But then, all that can be discussed and agreed on if you have that level of interaction and that communication. And managing the team in smaller groups, such as working with them through, and supporting them through mini project managements. That would be my approach. So say, for example, you've got a team of 10 people and you're the one line manager, you might have different tasks, but you need different members of the team to work on different tasks, but you as a line manager, to be able to help yourself as well, you could see them and manage them in like different groups within the same team. And then having a more collective, a collaborative approach with the whole team to say, right, these guys did this bit, these guys did this bit, coming together as a team, we've been able to achieve that result because everybody's done what they needed to do. And
almost like bite-sized workload.
Yeah, bite-sized. Yeah,
like bite-sized projects.
Breaking it down, and that way, when you're fair in terms of your approach and how much interaction you have with those teams within the teams, I say, it's like nobody's kind of missed out, nobody's lost out, and I think you've just got to take the situation as it is and kind of find the right solution within that situation, but by evaluating what do I need to do here, what are the expectations from my team, and how can we come together to agree a plan of action where this could be a success.
Sure, no, it sounds logical. But no, I feel like you said, like remote teams and management of teams, be it in office or remote, I think it's very much a hot topic because, like you said, a lot of companies are kind of swinging towards like going back to the office. People are missing that human interaction in the majority of cases. I know, like you said, some people aren't. Not all roles require being in the office, depending on what you actually do with your like day-to-day job.
Yeah.
But obviously for you in HR in general, it must pose quite a bit of, I don't want to say extra stress, but definitely a different approach.
Yeah, a different approach, because I feel that, like when somebody works from home, they kind of miss out on a lot of the day-to-day kind of interactions that you have that not most
the coffee with your friends.
They don't always have to be work related. They could be like colleague to colleague and like just kind of having a bit of a vibe, an office vibe. And people, I think the important aspect here is that we've got so much going on in the world around mental health at the moment, and this whole thing with remote working. Yes, it might help certain individuals if that's what they want or they need because of the work-life balance, being able to do what they need to do at home, but also be able to have the flexibility to work as well. But for a lot of the times, or from the people that I've interacted with that have been in roles that have joined expat now and are now in the office, but previously with other employers have been working remotely, is that it really has had a bit of a negative impact on them missing out on those day-to-day interactions, having that work-life balance where they're able to get up in the morning and leave the house and go leave the house with a mission, having that kind of motivation and that drive and that encouragement. That is really, really important. And I think that if you can offer hybrid working where somebody could potentially get the flex, best of both, and it is all just remote working, then you need to put a bit more effort and investment into the recognition and the appreciation side when you do kind of have those interactions with those people working from home and remotely, and just allowing time to offer constructive feedback, that's really important. And just kind of touching in, how's everything going? It doesn't have to be a work related conversation. It could just be, we've not spoken for a while. I just wanted to see how you're getting on, what's going on at home, everything all right? Have you been on any holidays? Just having and giving them
that we need.
Giving them that experience that even though you're working remotely, we still care about you. You're still part of our team, and I'm still here to support you because I'm your line manager, and that can be anyone. So that is really important. And that's, I mean, we have had people work remotely. I know from our commercial team sometimes might do that, but because they're out on the roads or what have you. But I think, again, having that interaction and having the freedom to just pick up the phone and say, oh, I can speak to that person whenever and whatever time it is, that's really important. And that really helps, and I think that that's really appreciated as well, because I do make that really clear, and I know that managers within expat make that clear as well, that it doesn't matter if you need to speak to somebody, you've got a problem, just pick the phone up and speak to us. You don't have to create any barriers.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I just wanted to ask you, like, I know that we are like in this global age where we are doing everything online and everything. So I just wanted to know what is your opinion on this? Like, okay, we have regular one-to-ones, right? But usually they end up being about work, So what do you think maybe having like, I don't know, once or twice per week, like a coffee break, 15 minutes to talk about different topics that are aside from work,
Yeah, I think something that because I'm going to be focusing a lot on employee engagement this year. That's one of my big, kind of main focuses within expat. And a few of the ideas that I have is like creating focus groups. So, focus groups that talk about the other aspects of life, things that people can come together and be, kind of relate on and are passionate about, topics that they're passionate about that doesn't necessarily have to be in work, could be like hobbies or personal interests or anything like that. And just having those, creating those and allowing those platforms where people can come in and have those, kind of opportunities to communicate with their colleagues and build relationships. I think that whole building relationship has to continue even if you're working remotely. And it's really the businesses kind of responsibility to create those opportunities where people can continue to build those relationships, whether it be internally or externally with your stakeholders or whatever it is. But you need to continue to build those relationships because that's what keeps your teams connected.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope that many companies will start implementing this. Yeah. Anime, do you have anything to add here or?
Yeah, no, you kind of asked my question, so no. I think what you said, I think what Sophia's touched on quite a lot is key. Communication, open communication, transparency, and the whole idea of in terms of people first. Yes, we have HR, but like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, but it's a line manager's job. But then again, who's there for the line manager? Who's there for the employee? It needs to be a collective effort, like organizationally wide. I know from company sizes, it's not always like the easiest task or the most possible task to have like clear processes in place if you're 1,000-person organization in respect to what is a 100-person organization. But I think that HR and the role of HR should be a global collective. We're here to support you all. We'll give but we need some from you as well. Like, we'll support you, but you need to support us too. We'll help like my line managers. Line managers need to then help their employees that report into them, because
Yeah.
people make the business turn, right? Everyone's there doing pushing their little bit to make the business go at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's the whole idea behind, breaking that us and them culture. It's not always about me and me. It has to be a we. A
It's us.
businesses only succeed when we have teams that always refer to any sort of situation or challenge as, we are collectively going to do this. We are going to tackle this. Rather than it's my problem or your problem. That never works. That is really damaging for culture. And really it's the responsibility of the senior leadership team, whether it be the directors or whoever, to drive that forward, drive that approach forward. And it really kind of starts from them. They need to start saying we before they expect it from anybody else. And when they start saying we, the leadership aspect comes in, and then before you know it, everybody starts adopting it, and everybody kind of focuses and drives through with that leadership approach, even the managers. So when HR are going and mentoring and coaching people, that's that really helps, because they've already in the right mindset to take on that mentoring and coaching and deliver it in the right way. It's almost kind of like become the culture, so nobody knows anything different but that culture. So it's easier to then kind of adopt that approach. And then I think that I've missed out on actually saying on the coaching and mentoring side, on the earlier topic, that to succeed in that coaching and mentoring process, that you firstly need to mentor and coach your management teams. I think that's really important in terms of the service that you deliver to your people. Any sort of mentoring and coaching you do, first it has to be your line managers, for them to then offer that same coaching and mentoring to their teams. And that's how you create a cycle where people are allowed the opportunity to progress, because it's like a full cycle. We share our experiences with you, we'll share our guidance with you, so that you can learn, so that you can then one day become a manager as well. And it kind of is kind of a
All turns the wheel.
full circle. And teaching different techniques of engaging with the staff and overcoming challenges when faced with resistance or lack of confidence in change. All that is really important, really important. And my approach within XPAC, especially in the last 15-16 months being here, has always been that having that one-to-one interaction, having sitting next to the person and saying, offering that regular feedback and saying, okay, what is your thought on this? What do you think? What would be your approach? And if listening to that and not kind of just beating it down and saying, well, I don't think that's the right approach, and I think you should go with what I'm telling you to do, that doesn't help. If anything, the process is kind of to enhance confidence, not reduce confidence. So you would say, oh, that's a really good idea, but maybe kind of let's add this solution into the mix as well. Maybe we could try this aspect as well, this approach as well. And then combining it together and kind of giving them the confidence that, I also had a part to play in this, and that is really important, to empower people. Empowering people that's how you do it. You don't beat people down for their ideas. You can offer advice and guidance and kind of drive them to take on that mentoring and coaching, and say that, try this approach and hopefully that'll work. And, when you come back with that result, share it with me. It could either work, it could not work. But, I'm also open to feedback. Just because I'm HR or just because I'm your line manager doesn't mean to say that I can't make a bad decision, or I can't be wrong. Giving them that confidence that I could also be wrong. So if I'm telling you something and you've gone and tried that solution and it's not worked, then come back and give me that feedback. You are well within your rights to do that. And then we can then come back together and sit down and see what else can we do.
And that's really important as well, the learning together as well. Like you said, nothing's really perfect. No solution or process can ever be perfect at the end of the day. But that whole, like, yes, you're a line manager or your HR or your senior management, whatever you may be.
Yeah.
Like you said, that whole, if you show openness of yeah, that's a good idea. Let's add this in the mix. Let's try this all together. It might not work. It might work. That I think that will harbour that relationship that you need to give you that
Yeah.
transparency, build the communication, because you're building trust right there with the employees and anyone
Yeah.
involved in that process. I hope
Yeah.
that
And it's
sounds
a two-way process, you know, and
exactly.
just because you're in a more senior position, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be right. You know,
Of
we're
course
all human, we're all learning. We're always learning, you know. I don't think anybody can ever say that they're all most perfect and knowledgeable in every aspect of what's required within their role, because you're always learning, you know, and having that kind of mentality also helps to kind of, like you said, drive the confidence and the trust
definitely.
amongst your teams, so that, you know, when you do say something, then they are not, you know, afraid to come back to you and give you the truthful kind of feedback and
Yeah, like what actually happened, like their outcome they saw, as opposed to like glossing over it or like milking it a little bit. But yeah.
Yes, I agree with both of you. And I think that this is very important. Like, it doesn't matter what the position is, like, the title is not that necessary to be known. As long as we're co workers and we're working together, we're trying to achieve something together. So it's good to have a mutual understanding.
Yeah.
And in the end, I just want to tackle, of course, the HR software. So we go more technical aspects. So, how do you think that an HR software can help you with talent management, and why do we need it for talent performance?
I think, to be fair, I mean, do we need a software like an ATS software to manage talent? I don't know, Sophia, you've done a bit of hiring, I suppose, being in HR. You've had a few different roles. Do you think
Yeah,
it's actually necessary?
I think it helps, especially, I mean, if you, it doesn't matter whether you're a team of 5 HR professionals, you know, overlooking over 1,000 employees, or you're somebody like me in a standalone role overlooking over 100 employees. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I think any HR software is just, you know, another support mechanism for that HR team, you know. And, you know, we're all humans. And I think that is what's important to note here is that within HR, you know, everything's kind of, yes, it's, you know, not always process driven, but you need to still have a process, you know, and you need to make sure, because for the sake of fairness and consistency, you know, fairness and consistency is really important in HR. And so when you have like an application tracking system or any sort of HR software or anything like that, it just helps to make sure that you're managing everybody fairly and consistently in the right way.
I think it's fair to say it gives you the guidance that you need in HR.
Yeah,
So obviously we're not magic. No one's
no,
perfect. No one can remember
no,
absolutely everything in the world.
no.
I think for yourself, it's probably more a support resource in terms of the eyes of HR. It's just, yeah.
I mean, it allows me to have more of those face-to-face interactions. You know, I mean,
Exactly, because the processes are kind of taken
yeah,
care of online.
yeah,
Your tick boxes are all
yeah,
being done in the
yeah. If
background.
everything's all simplified on the system and it's like, you know, one touch buttons, everything, then we're not paper based. And I'm not kind of spending so much time doing the transactional side of HR, and I'm actually doing the more people side of HR, which is having those meaningful conversations, having those interactions, being there for support and guidance for the management teams, being there in kind of having those kind of commercially focused discussions with the senior management teams, you know, and it kind of helps you to become more well-rounded as a HR professional, and allows you the opportunity to explore all aspects of HR. I mean, when I started working or exploring Factorial, and I decided that I was going to go with Factorial, the main thing for me was that it was perfectly aligned with my HR strategic plan. Like, I mean, literally kind of like just met every sort of element or aspect of my HR strategic plan. And I said that to Anna May as well, right at the start of our relationship, where, you know, when we partnered and we said, you know, look, this bit is covered, that bit's covered, this is how you can do that, you know, the performance side is covered, you know, the recruitment side is covered, and, you know, the absence and time tracking and all that sort of side is covered, you know. And it was just so much of a relief, because I thought, okay, well, this system is going to help me deliver my HR strategic plan, which is essentially what's going to make me successful within this business. And just having that peace of mind, you know, and the support is just really, really kind of valuable to me.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah. And I know how you feel. Yeah. So, Anime, maybe you want to mention something about, applicant tracking system here as well and
I
the
was going to
benefits.
say, yeah, maybe we can touch on the ATS, the systems we have in place, because you made a fair point, Sophia. Not always necessary, but can be very useful in terms of those processes. Obviously, HR, talent recruitment, there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to track, a lot to keep it in line, to manage documents and so on. But yeah, no, it can be very helpful indeed to have that software in the background that kind of takes a bit of weight off your shoulders. So here we have some snapshots and snippets of what we have from Factorial of how you can post. First of all, finding those applicants. Where do they come from? Where are we going to post our job offers? Do you want to post them online on your company website? Do you want to link up through partnerships with various job boards? If it's a very niche role you're looking for, it just helps you again really find that talent, and you can customize the application process. You can add in some specifics around the application forms, make sure that the applicants are meeting the criteria as they're applying online. And you can obviously, the lifecycle always stays within Factorial, as Sophia mentioned. It just keeps everything central, and it gives you that peace of mind that you're not missing out, that one person didn't skip a stage after the phone interview if there's another step in the process. If you flick over, we've got some more snapshots there of obviously moving candidates through different phases. Obviously, again, this is really helpful, keeping documentation of all your candidates. Again, role specific related, maybe they need certain certifications, certain qualifications that you'd need to see before you even call them for an interview. This can all be stored in the one place. You can mark the candidates and give them ratings, move them on the different stages, store all their information, pull some reports on this. If we go to the next slide. And then here, yeah, the candidate profiles. Obviously, HR isn't the only person involved in the hiring process in companies I've seen and worked with in the past. It tends to fall unilaterally across a lot of the business in some cases. It can fall down to managers, it can fall over into senior management, HR, it can fall into other teams, even as third party involvement, just to think, is this a candidate cultural fit maybe, or is this candidate going to fit in terms of academic requirements? And having these individual profiles per candidate online for you to always refer back to and share if needs be with a hiring manager for the specific role. Again, that would all be in the one place within Factorial. We've got a little snippet here for you today, just there on the slides.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is Factorial in a bit of a nutshell there. Thank you everyone for listening to us today and sharing that with us.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Esme, so much for this, and thank you, Sophia, for your lovely presentation as well. And we've come to the Q&A section. We don't have a lot of time, but we have some questions that need to be answered here. So we have one from Talent Times. It says, at what point, if any, in business and the growth of a company, does people first take priority over operational integrity? Without people, there is no business. Without business, no people.
Wow. Well, yes, it does go hand in hand, absolutely. But I think that, what's important is, I understand that businesses have to make certain decisions, some take drastic measures and, kind of driving, the operational focus, the growth, whatever it is that the organization's trying to achieve. I think that when you strategize or when you kind of plan that change or the growth, it's really important how much involvement or what involvement people are going to have within that process. I know there's operational integrity and that a job needs to get done, that is really important. But how do you bring people on board to get that job done? That is what's important. You really need to kind of sit down and plan. And again, yes, you see the end result, but you're not just going to get that end result itself. It is going to be people that are going to be driving that end result. So having them involved, having them kind of part of the process of, how do we get to that result is really, really important. And again, having those interactions, having those kind of one-to-one meetings, allowing them to be part of that decision-making process, doing risk assessments, what does it mean for them? What is the impact? How they're going to overcome challenges? How they're going to kind of, if we do achieve this result, it's going to be a success. It's going to be a collective success. Again, that's really important as well. Giving them some motivation and enthusiasm and encouragement to support you in achieving that result is really important.
No, definitely. Just to jump in as well, I don't think it's personally, just my personal opinion, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily about priority, like taking priority people first over operational. I think what you mentioned there as well, Sophia, kind of goes hand in hand, like with the risk assessments, the communication. It's more of a case of, like you said, operational changes like need to happen sometimes if businesses are scaling up, scaling down, if they're growing, if you're going from startup to unicorn to enterprise. There's no way you can avoid a change. It's just
No.
how do you include the people in that change? I
Yeah.
think it's worth the question you ask, and I think you've quite rightly addressed how you ask it. Like, as HR, my job is, you want to make a big change. Okay, how are people impacted by this, and how can we help them with this process? Can we
Yeah.
help them with this change? Because it won't always be amazing news. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you said it before yourself, it's not always the best news an employee wants to hear, and that's
No.
unavoidable. But it's like you said, it's not about, I don't think, again, for me, it's not about the priority. It's about how you combine those two together, how you step in as HR and say, okay, there's the change. This is how it impacts people. How
Yeah.
can we
You're,
work?
you're always going to be a mediator in that process. And, you know, for anybody within HR, we always often find ourselves between a rock and a hard place. You know, you've got, you know, the leadership team telling you this is the result. We've made this decision, this is what we're going to do. And then, you know, you're like, okay, well, what does that mean for the people? What do I need to do? Well, how do we get them on board? And sometimes it's not always, you know, a positive answer. It's not always, you know, something that people want to hear. But, you know, within that situation, you have to adapt the right approach of communication, the right type of communication.
Because as you said before, businesses are there for a reason. What needs to be done, and
Yeah.
the reason why the operational takes the way it takes, kind of thing. There's the reason why.
Yeah, and if you struggle, you know, I mean, if you struggle, then there's always help, there's always support. You always take advice, you know, use your network, you know, to ask for kind of support and guidance and advice on, you know, how other HR professionals have done something or dealt with a similar situation. You know, what have they done? You know, you don't always have to feel like you're on your own. You know, there's always so much help, and on forums and, you know, networks and kind of groups that you may have connected with, which is why, you know, in HR it's so important to keep growing your network, because you're always going to need that support, that independent support, not necessarily within the business, because they might not be able to offer you the right answer that you need. But, you know, you can ask for support externally and use your stakeholders as for advice, you know. So
yeah, thank you so much. And we have time for one more question. I mean, we have a lot more, but the time is like running. So here we have one from Ethan. He asked, when it comes to remote employees, what strategies can companies use to keep them engaged and make them feel included?
I think that with the remote kind of teams, again, you know, using the technology that you have, the software that you might have, or just, again, the basics, you know, just picking up the phone. I mean, for me, the way I would deal with it is having, you know, kind of creating these platforms, these opportunities where people or the teams can come together. And even if it means like going out as a team, you know, once in a while, it means that the person can get out again for a work-related kind of purpose, to go and meet the teams and to have that face-to-face interaction. That's where the work-life balance really comes in. I think other strategies possibly could be that, you know, you could kind of just have your regular catch-ups, and it doesn't always have to be like, we're only going to catch up because it's your one-to-one, or we're only going to catch up because it's your annual appraisal. You know, have other catch-ups as well, where it's just a welfare focused catch-up. I think, you know, having any systems where you're doing those pulse checks, you know, you're on Factorial, you can set up communities. You know, those could be really good ideas of creating different topics through communities and connecting with your people through that. Doing your surveys, you know, surveys can be built of any kind, you know, and again, it's just about what is right for your team. And more importantly, why not ask those people that are affected? Go back to your employees and say, well, you're remote working, you know, what support do you need from me, or what do you want us to do to make this as, you know, easy and effective as possible? You know,
Yeah, like you mentioned before, we can have like those regular coffee breaks, like online even.
Forums, everything. Yeah. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, the person that has to interact just within their team. They could interact with other teams as well. So it's cross cross-divisional, cross-departmental, and you're still binding and connecting everybody within that organization together. And it's not just like, you know, the person only has interaction with their team members or their line manager. They could on one, you know, hand, I suppose, just say, oh, we're just going to have a catch up, but you know what, this time don't have it with me, have it with the commercial manager or the supply chain manager. You know, get to know them a bit. You know, have a try and find a topic that you can both kind of, you know, connect on and whatever. And those kind of things really help, because it helps to keep the team together, the whole business together.
Yes, I agree with you. And we have to come to the end now. We're like talking for over 15 minutes. Imagine this. Yes. So thank you so much again, Sophia and Anna May, for this wonderful chat and your responses to these questions. I really enjoyed our discussion, and I hope that maybe in the future we can collaborate again. And also, I'd like to thank everyone who attended this live event. In the following days, we will send you the resources connected to the event via email. If you tuned in later and you missed the beginning, don't worry, we'll send you also the recording via email. And for more HR events like this one and other videos connected to human resources, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay on top of all current trends. And also, lastly but not least, don't hesitate to add me or our speakers on LinkedIn, and maybe you can ask them further questions that we didn't have the chance to answer today. So thank you again, both of you, and I hope to see you soon.
So much. Thank you, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
attending. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.